Gang, what is going on? Welcome to the latest episode of The Game Plan. It's your boy, the authentic one, Mr. Matty Kiwoom. And of course, I am joined by the analytics wizard himself, the man behind all the metrics that we use and love at playerprofile.com, my brother, Evan Ringler. Evan, what is going on?
What's up, Matty? It's a bit of a rough day for us in Mariners land, but we still have a little hope. And we're looking to help the people on this show and forget about what happened today.
You know what? We're in the thick of it. The bullets are flying. We are in the fantasy football trenches. So we got
Yes,
two
sir.
fantastic segments for you guys tonight. Some stats, talk about some buy now players, because you guys come here to help game plan, to get the dubs, to get the edge over all your jabroni league mates. So without further ado, let's get the show started. So obviously statistics are awesome. For many, many years, we were really just slaves to the surface stats, the catches, touchdowns, receiving yards, rushing yards, all that stuff. But over the course of time, the analytics community has developed and has given us information that we couldn't even dream about, in the past. And not only, do we have, the show is on the best analytics website for fantasy football, but I got the brain with me. So I thought it would be important that you and I, over these first 5 weeks, talk about some of the stats. Call them stats of the month. Now, could be why they're important, how to utilize them. Either way, we're going to bring up some stats from playerprofile.com from the analytics side of things, all these metrics, and we're going to talk about why they're important. What does it mean? How do you use it to get a leg up on your league mates, to get an edge on all the jabronis you're trying to dominate in fantasy football? So, Evan, give us the first stat that just stuck out to you after this first 5 weeks.
So the first stat that I always look at, especially for running back, receiver, tight end, is expected fantasy points. This is a model that I totally reworked this offseason. And it essentially blends all the usage stats that we like to look at into a single number. I find it especially valuable for wide receivers and tight ends, as it factors in the location of targets, the accuracy of the throws, and how open the receiver is as well. For running backs, it looks at where the carry is from on the field and the yards blocked for that running back. So you should keep in mind that good players on good teams will often outperform their expected fantasy points, particularly at running back. But in general, it is a very, very useful tool just to see which players we expect to regress positively and regress negatively if their usage stays the same going forward.
Do you have a couple names after looking at some of these stats, some names that pop out to you? Some of them that might, find regression in a positive sense, or maybe some that have in a negative sense. Is there anyone that stuck out, any outliers 5 weeks in?
That's a great question. I was looking at a guy today, TJ Hawkinson. I was trying to make a bull case for him, and I just couldn't figure out a way to do it because he's 20th in expected points per game, and all the other metrics are pretty bad as well. But yeah, it's something that I look at for every single player, and on Player Profiler, this is freely available on every player page, and right next to the expected fantasy points per game, you can see their actual points per game. So it's super easy to compare across positions. One guy that was supposed to have a lot of regression coming into this year was James Cook, who outperformed his expected fantasy points by a lot last season. And this season, he is still outperforming, but his usage has gone up to such a degree that it doesn't really matter. Even his expected fantasy points is RB9, and he's performing at an RB5 level, which is probably because he's a good player and a good offense.
And a lot of the expected thing, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of the expected has to, with the touchdowns. We don't like to project touchdowns, but running backs on dynamite offenses, especially the really good ones, they score a lot of touchdowns. So they can elevate those numbers, and sometimes it's not impossible. I mean, football, baseball, analytics, they're vastly different because of the sample size. But even in baseball, a guy can be better on the surface than all of his analytics show for a 162. So, of course, that can also happen for 17 games for football. So I think it's a great stat to bring up. It's one of the key metrics that I use when trying to decide who I'm buying, who I'm selling in fantasy football. So I'm glad you brought it up. We got some questions in the chat. Guys, stick around to the end of the show because we will answer every single question that you have at the end of the show. But if you leave a super chat, we will elevate it and we'll get to it ASAP. But if not, stick around to the end. We'll make sure we answer every single question that you have in the chat. My first stat that I'm going to talk about here from these first 5 weeks is slot fantasy points. Why is that important? So far this year, we are witnessing an absolute monster year from receivers that score from the slot. And of course, in PPR leagues, which, let's be real, is the majority of leagues nowadays, especially in our redraft community, it looks like the slot players are dominating. And so the guys with the highest amount of slot points are some of the best in fantasy overall. And some of the names that really popped out to me. Puka Nacua, obviously number one wide receiver in all of fantasy. He's third in fantasy points from the slot with 46.2. Amon-Ra St. Brown, who has the most fantasy points from the slot, wide receiver 2 overall this season. But it's not just wide receivers. It's tight ends too. Dalton Kincaid has the 7th most fantasy points from the slot with 37.9. That's the highest amongst tight ends. He's tight end 2 on the season. Trey McBride, 37.4 fantasy points from the slot. 8th most overall, 2nd highest amongst tight ends. Tight end 4. And it's not just the elevated, because some of these people might be saying, listen, Kiwoom, listen, you jerk. Those are the best players at their positions. Of course, it doesn't matter where they score. They score a ton of fantasy points. It translates to guys who had lower ADPs, lower expectations. Keenan Allen, 38.8 fantasy points from the slot, 6th highest, wide receiver 14 overall. Rashid Shaheed, 39.9 fantasy points from the slot. That's the 5th most overall from all positions. Wide receiver 21 overall in fantasy football. So it seems to me 5 weeks in, Evan, if these guys can do it in the slot, they're going to do it at the highest level overall at their position in fantasy football. So for me, I'm going to be looking at some of these underlying metrics here, looking at some of these guys who are scoring from the slot that might haven't ascended to the tops of their position or better than expected, and try to target some of those, because I think that time's coming, because it looks like in the nowadays landscape, you want the targets because the targets lead to receptions. In PPR, you get the free point and so on and so forth. So we like the guys who score some points from the slot.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. The archetype of receivers that really dominate in fantasy are the guys who they play in the slot on 3 receiver sets quite a bit, but then they also stay on the field in 2 wide receiver sets. A lot of times guys will, the best slot guys will play very well when they're on the field, but then they'll get pulled off on the other downs. And those slot targets are just way easier to manufacture for an offense rather than throwing the ball outside where it's more likely to be contested. The throw has to travel further. And another thing to think about it is those receivers on the outside, they can really only break inside towards the middle of the field, where the guys in the slot, they can go in, they can go out, whichever way they want. So yeah, we want the guys that play in the slot, but we also just want guys that stay on the field a lot as well.
I don't care if it seems cheap. I know we get the tweet. I think it's from Ian Harditz every week, or maybe I'm getting it wrong. I'm sorry if I'm mistaken, but they do the comparison of a running back getting 1.8 fantasy points. It's an 18-yard run where they're breaking 5 tackles, and then a receiver that catches the ball for 8 yards goes right down. But in fantasy, I don't care. Give me the point, baby, all day long. Give me that cheat code. All right, Evan, give us another stat.
So the most predictive efficiency stats that we have for wide receivers and tight ends are yards per route run and first downs per route run. And they're a very simple way to determine who is good or bad when they're on the field on a per route basis. It is important to note, like we were just talking about, the slot only guys like Shakir, Downs, and Jaden Reed, 3 of my favorite receivers, by the way, often look great on a per route basis, but they never see the uptick in routes that we hope for. So we need guys that have the route volume and are efficient on a per route basis. If we look at the best receivers in first downs per route this year, it's Puka Nacua, JSN, Tyreek Hill, rest in peace, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and a guy that we're going to be talking about later in this episode, actually. So yeah, stay tuned for that.
See, I'm the king of bro science. Okay, I'm the president of the Bro Science fan club. I love being able to talk about things that aren't tangible, not be able to quantify it. And I know that probably drives you nuts, and your brain doesn't see things that way. This stat I love so much, the first downs per route run, because it marries the two. When you
It
watch
does.
a guy
Yeah.
on the field who catches first downs, why does he get a lot of first downs? Because he's an alpha. He's a big dog. He's hungry. He wants to eat. And the team goes to him when they need it most to get first downs.
Because
So
they
that's
trust
a nice,
him. Yeah.
they trust him, and he can handle the biz. That's why I love some of these stats that kind of marry the two between what you see, how you feel, and also the analytics to support it, the stats behind the surface that really kind of gets things going. So I love that. Good call to bring that up there. And it just makes sense, right? The number one receivers get a lot of first downs. They're the best players. Period. It's how it is.
Absolutely.
So the next thing I want to bring up. So what I like to do also, Evan, and all you guys listening out there, I love to take two metrics and marry them. I like to take two different things, see what it means for both, and then put them together and really get a nice picture of what a player's doing, what could happen. Maybe can I predict what might happen in the next few weeks, month, rest of the season, based on putting these two metrics together. So I want to put two of metrics that we use at playerprofile.com together and paint a little picture here. And that's target share and unrealized air yards. Why is this important, people? Well, I'll tell you. Not only are these the players that are, getting overlooked in their offense, they got a low target share, they're not getting a ball a ton, but they're also hyper inefficient when they get these opportunities, which is not great for lineup leagues. And, in redraft, most formats are lineup leagues. You have to make the decision to play or not play. So we hate volatility in lineup leagues because those are the guys that you put in your lineup and they suck. You put them on your bench and they go off. In best ball, totally different. You want these guys in best ball. We're not talking best ball. We're talking redraft lineup. So these are the hyper inefficient, low target getters, the guys that don't have a big target share. They're not getting a lot of volume. And these are the guys I just stay away from more often than not in fantasy. And who are some of those players so far this year, 5 weeks in? Well, number one, Jameson Williams. 15% target share, 295 unrealized air yards. So maybe for folks that are new to Player Profile, first of all, if you're new, subscribe to the Player Profile YouTube channel. Make sure you're rocking with all we're putting down. Evan, real quick, in a couple sentences, explain unrealized air yards for people who don't know.
So air yards looks at on each target, where is the target in relation to the line of scrimmage? So you get a target 20 yards downfield, then that's 20 air yards. In the unrealized air yards would be only for the ones that are the targets that are not caught. So a 20-yard pass that is not caught would be 20 unrealized air yards.
So when you put the two together, they're not getting targets, and when they are, they're getting targeted downfield, which is like if you're a basketball guy, it's like shooting from the hash mark, shooting from the logo. Not a high percentage shot. We want more high percentage shots. We want those slot guys we talked about. So Jameson Williams, 15% target share, 295 unrealized air yards. I don't like it. Marvin Mims, 13% target share with 198 unrealized air yards. T. Higgins, believe it or not. I know it's no Joe Burrow, so things are not great, but I don't know if Joe Flacco's going to be much better. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
17% target share, 229 unrealized air yards. And Jerry Jeudy, below 20%, 19% target share this year with 324 unrealized air yards. And now he's going to be worried about Dylan Gabriel, maybe Bailey Zappi, maybe Shadur Sanders. I don't know if it gets better. So those are four names that really stuck out to me when I put these metrics together. And these are guys that if I roster, I'm looking to sell. And if they're not my roster, they're going to stay off my roster.
Yeah, I think this is a great point. You're identifying a certain archetype here. And, other guys would fall into that, like Rashichi. He just had a huge week, but we should probably sell him off of that. That's just kind of how it works with those deep threat guys is they might look really good in fantasy at the end of the season, but for those that actually have them on their rosters, it's a nightmare because you never know when to start them.
I would much rather, this sounds crazy, and like all the true football people out there are going to want to reach through their screen and pop me one right in the kisser. But give me 10 receptions for 50 yards over 4 catches and 111 yards. They're both 15 fantasy points, but I would much rather have the guy who's getting the catches, the reliable one. That's who I want.
Yeah, and it makes sense. For fantasy, receptions are more predictable than the deep ones, especially
The bombs away. We don't care about the bomb away guys.
Yeah, it's nice to have those
route runners.
Right. It's nice to
Yeah,
have those on top of the usage.
right.
Like JSN, for example, this year, he's getting the easy stuff over the middle of the field that we love, but then he's also getting the deep shots on top of that with by the way, a quarterback that's just been crushing it down the field this year. Perfect passer
Oh,
rating on deep throws. Can't
super
believe it.
accurate downfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great. So, Evan, you got one more stat here. Bring it up here. Let me hear what you got.
Yeah. So now I want to focus on team run plays per game or team pass plays per game. The play volume, pass rate, all that kind of stuff in an offense can massively affect our fantasy success for players across all positions. One big example is Derrick Henry this season. I still think that he's an awesome player. We saw it in week 1, rattling off giant runs, but he can only do so much if the Ravens rank 30th in run plays per game. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have somebody like Kendrick Bourne, who is just an all right player at best, but he can put up great results in fantasy when the 49ers throw 49 times in a game.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Right. You want pass catchers when they throw the ball. You don't want pass catchers when they don't throw the ball. Same thing with running backs. We want volume, especially running backs. You chase the volume. And we've talked about it now throughout this whole show that we want wide receiver volume. We want the passes going their way over than the big time passes that might not really hit. So I think those are two good metrics here that sometimes I think feels kind of general, kind of feels like surface, kind of feels like who cares. But I think when you really dive into it, those matter way more than people realize.
Yeah. And I don't know if you remember, but after week 1, we talked about Zay Flowers, who had a massive week 1. I think he had a massive week 2 as well. But we discussed that it was probably a great time to sell him because the Ravens are traditionally low play volume and very low in terms of pass volume on a weekly basis. So yeah, his metrics on a per route basis or on a per pass attempt basis, whatever you want to look at, are going to look awesome, but it just
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter if the play volume for the offense isn't there. And then specifically focusing on running backs, if we look at the leaders in team run plays per game so far, it's the Bills. James Cook has been crushing it. The
Yep.
Falcons, Bijan has been crushing it. The Lions, Gibbs is crushing it, and Montgomery is useful
Montgomery.
too.
Yep.
And then fourth is Josh Jacobs on the Packers. Fifth is Jonathan Taylor. And then we get down to the Saints, which is a weird one. I guess Kendra and Miller stock up.
That's just having an offense that's just not capable of chucking the rock. But okay, we
Yeah,
don't care.
and it's a
We'll
pace
chase those
thing
all day
too. Like
long.
they're actually
Right.
very high in pass plays per game as well. They just run a ton of plays, which is awesome for fantasy.
You typically play with a little pep in your step when you're down 45 points at half. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
You like doing that stuff. I got one more stat here before you want to answer something. So yes, we answer super chats. We'll answer super chats in the moment. But if you leave a question, you don't need to leave a super chat. We will get to every single one of them at the end of the show. So if you want a question for Evan or myself to answer, I see them piling up. We will get to each and every one of them at the end of the show. But if you do a super chat, you will excel. We will do it right then and right there and get you in and get you out. So my last stat is another stat marriage here. It's breakaway run rate and opportunity share. And why do these two matter when you put them together? These are the players that have been super efficient when running the ball. Sometimes we see an increase in volume, and sometimes when we see that increase, we'll see the efficiency kind of come down. But with the better players, the real true special players, they can be high in volume and high in efficiency. Example being Breece Hall right now. I mean, he's getting a 70% opportunity share, and he's got one of the highest breakaway run rates in the on the year in the NFL, which means he's just a stud. But some of the names that really popped when I put these two together, Bill, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, and I'll talk more about him later in the show, but he's got an 11.6 breakaway run rate and only a 46% opportunity share. Let's get that opportunity share up. Let's get it up. Let's pop that up. We want to see it up. Blake Corum, which surprised me, 8.3% breakaway run rate and only a 23% opportunity share. I know they extended Kyron, so to see a significant bump from Blake Corum probably isn't realistic. But if you're in a deep redraft league, I'm putting him at the back end of my bench. We talked about stashes a couple weeks ago. Blake Corum was on it. He's still on it for this reason, because if that opportunity share goes up, whether by choice or by injury, I think he could be a fantasy monster in this offense. And the last one, Woody Marks. 5.6% breakaway run rate, and all three of these are well within the top 25 overall in football. So his 35% opportunity share, simply not big enough, simply not high enough. The fact that they saw him go berserk, then made him take a backseat to Nick Chubb, I think that was more game-related, that they had the game in hand. Baltimore didn't put up a fight really at all in Week 5. I think that was really more the product of the lack of opportunity share, which sunk the number a bit. But I think that coming out of the bye in Week 7, Woody Marks is going to be ready to go gangbusters. So these are three names that they're running backs that have been affected. Some of them more limited than others, but if this opportunity share goes up, if their chances to make plays go up, they will make more plays because they're doing it on a limited fashion. So these are the guys I'm either stashing or buying low right now.
I like it, man. It's just a good, simple volume stat and a good, simple efficiency stat. And when those can pair together, that's when we get the truly elite seasons in fantasy. If you want to be like an elite running back one, you either have to have just game-breaking, off-the-charts volume like Christian McCaffrey, who's basically a wide receiver one, or you need to pair the two together. Like somebody like Gibbs has very good volume and incredible efficiency, or Jonathan Taylor has both as well. So we want to identify the guys that can do both. And I'm looking at the bottom of the leaderboard for breakaway run rate right now, and Saquon Barkley, 38th out of 43 qualified running backs. I think that kind of tells you why he's not, living up to the hype in fantasy this year. It's because he struggled to make big runs. And, that comes down to the run blocking a lot of times as well. It's not just the running back on an individual basis. It's the offense and the run blocking. But it's a good way to look at things, in my opinion.
Another guy that's had exactly 0 breakaway runs so far this season, Chase Brown. So you want a reason why he ain't doing what he was doing last year? Well, my boy ain't breaking off 15-yard runs at all. Doesn't have a single one. Longest run on the year, 11 yards. Hopefully that number improves. Hopefully this offense improves. But yeah, these are the guys that need more touches because they're showing it off. So we want to talk about it here today. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tapping in, whether it be live or by audio. If you're listening, watching live, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment. And if you're listening, wherever you're getting your podcast, make sure you rate, review, leave a comment, all that good stuff. We got another segment, so you want to stick around. We're here on the Game Plan. Evan, Matty, let's do it.
So let's put our hoodie on. And let's talk about Player Profiler's DFS Dominator. It has a cash game optimizer that leverages the projections from Billy and Bradley and Evan and that Player Profiler AI engine to create cash game lineups that certainly have a high floor, but also give you that ceiling. Now, you've probably heard about the most powerful tool of all, our Lineup Genius. We know winning GPPs requires a completely different approach, which is why our Lineup Genius takes you through the process of selecting the quarterbacks in the juiciest matchups. Then it highlights the stacks and runbacks that are available, lets you pick the chalk level, lets you pick the level of correlation with a number of other proprietary settings available to you. Click a button and it generates hundreds of lineups to be imported into FanDuel and DraftKings. And it's just $45 a year, not a week, a year. So go fight fire with a Player Profiler DFS Dominator.
Shout out to my man Evan there in the ad. So I want to start this next segment just by saying, in Dynasty, you're always looking to get better, whether it be for this year or for later. But in redraft, you don't have the opportunity to buy draft picks. You don't have the opportunity to do these things. So I wanted to do a segment specifically for our redraft brethren, our seasonal warriors out there. So you might be 1-4, 0-5, 2-3. You might be behind the 8 ball a little bit in redraft leagues. Don't give up. We've got 6 targets, 3 from me, 3 from Evan. 6 targets that you need to buy now that will help you win in the short term, help you right the ship. So Evan, give me your first win, buy now to help win right here, right now.
My first guy is Stefon Diggs, who is playing the Saints and Titans over the next 2 weeks, which are both below average pass defenses. Not like incredible matchups, but they're good. And they got nobody that can cover Steph Diggs. This year, Diggs per route metrics are elite across the board. 4th target rate, 3rd in yards per route, 6th in first downs per route, 7th in fantasy points per route. And the usage has also been trending up significantly over the past 2 weeks. 75% route participation is up from 61%, and 20 expected points per game is up from 8. And then the target share and air yards are just ridiculous over the last 2 weeks, 43% and 55% respectively. When over the first 3 weeks, those were at 15%. So we have giant volume over the last 2 weeks, plus insane efficiency and good matchups coming up as well.
And I also feel like the price for Stefon Diggs might not be super high. Most people who roster Diggs in redraft probably draft him to be their wide receiver 3, maybe even wide receiver 4,
Yeah.
which means he could be their surplus that they're looking to sell high. But if you need wins, who gives a shit? Who cares about buying high? Buy high on a guy who's been doing it over these last few weeks, projects to do it over the next few weeks, and then make an opportunity. Do you have, I don't want to put you on the spot here, so if you can't think of one, if you haven't seen one, feel free to pass. But what abouts do you think it would cost to get a Diggs right now?
That's a good question. I would expect most people to see him as like a back end wide receiver 2 going forward, when I can easily see him potentially even cracking wide receiver 1 territory. He's been that good. So if you could move on from, I don't know, somebody like Quentin Johnston or Devontae Smith off of a big week, or Keenan Allen, Marvin
Shaheed
Harrison.
we talked about earlier.
Sure, definitely. Running backs, let's see, maybe David Montgomery or I don't know, Alvin Kamara, maybe Dowdle, guys like that. I think Diggs just has incredible upside, and most people in your leagues are not going to be appreciating that.
And in redraft too, so we don't see, they're called hockey trades, and that goes across all sports. It's when you send big leaguer for big leaguer, helpful player for helpful player. That doesn't happen in Dynasty. We're always looking for the sharks and the fish, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean there are buyers, there are sellers in the Dynasty landscape, and you play, you do that ballet, you do that dance with one another. In redraft, feel free to send your RB3 who's performing, but he's on your bench. You need a receiver. Someone else needs a running back. They have receivers. This is the type of deal you do. So Montgomery might not be one of your better running backs. He might be your flex guy. So if you need a better receiver, use a Montgomery, get a Diggs, and maybe make the balance work. That's a good way to do it. That's a good way to make some win now moves in fantasy football. My first buy is going to cost you, but I think he's gettable because he's a tight end. That's Trey McBride. So over these next 6 weeks, there's a bad matchup. It's this week, week 6 at Indy. Not great. But after that, Green Bay, Dallas, Seattle, San Francisco, all of those are advantageous matchups for tight ends. And when you look at, Trey McBride, I don't think he is the world beater that is ADP dictated. So in some situations, like in one of my leagues, the person who rosters Trey McBride has Tucker Kraft on their bench. Tucker Kraft's been good. So this is an opportunity to buy a guy like McBride. And in redraft, you have these opportunities because he's at 12.5 fantasy points per game right now. That's 7th on a points per game basis. But because he doesn't have to buy, he gets elevated. You know how that works. So I do think there's a window to buy. And when you look at his analytical profile, there's a lot to love. A lot to love. And you talked about it at the top of the show. I'm going to bring it up now. 12.5, that's his fantasy points per game. Expected fantasy points, 13.9, third amongst tight ends. So with that, plus number 1 amongst tight ends in unrealized air yards, there's a lot of meat left on that fantasy bone. And I think at this point, now's a great time to buy Trey McBride. And I put you on the spot asking you about what to trade, so I'll answer it myself. What could you give up for a Trey McBride? So if you go to playerprofiler.com and you get access to all the features, all the Dynasty Dominator things, we have a trade analyzer. And Evan, tell the people, if I say it, it's going to sound like a moron trying to explain it, a dog trying to explain the internet. So you, the smart person, tell people, how does our trade analyzer work at playerprofiler.com and why should people use it?
Yeah, so every player in our Dynasty rankings has a lifetime value that is based on our projections over the next 3 years for that player, plus their age and other like uncertainty factors, stuff related to that, obviously injuries. And our trade analyzer just simply balances those lifetime values against each other. And if there's a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-2, something like that, it'll also include the value of the extra roster space that is in there as well. And the really nice part for redraft people, you can still use it. Just set it to win now mode, and that should help a lot. It won't be perfect because it is built for Dynasty, but it can give you a solid idea, I think.
Yeah, and even if it's a redraft, like all you do is just take in your own brain to realize ages, projections there, and then you can make the decision. But it'll keep it pretty balanced because I use it in my redraft leagues and my dynasty leagues. And I was looking at it, trying to find some deals for these buy candidates to leave the people listening kind of an idea of what they might need to move. I saw a deal that happened recently on the Trade Finder app, which is just local leagues that are linked up to our website that pump in the trades that happen using the trade analyzer. And I saw this trade: T. Higgins and Dallas Goedert for Trey McBride. So if you don't have those two players, it's okay. Basically what it is your wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, plus probably your fringe starting tight end, a tight end 10, tight end 11, tight end 12. So if you could take your wide receiver 2 or 3, take your starting tight end, who's probably an overperforming tight end, someone that maybe you don't have faith in long term, package them together, get Trey McBride, put him on your team, and watch the wins start rolling in.
I love it, man. I just pulled up McBride's player profile for the first time in a couple of weeks, and wow, it is just ridiculous. There's a lot of number ones on there, a lot of number twos, number threes. Pretty much everything we care about is just elite from your boy Trey McBride. I love this call. I think you can, you're not obviously going to get him for a huge discount, but you can get potentially a real stud that matters in your lineup for not quite stud prices. And you could also go cross position with it. It doesn't you don't need to necessarily throw in a tight end. A lot of these teams they currently have 2 good tight ends that they don't know which one to start each week. You mentioned McBride and Kraft on that one guy's team. Maybe he needs a receiver. Maybe you throw him Cortland Sutton, who's been good recently, or Chris Olave or Quentin Johnston, somebody like that. I think those 1-for-1 trades across positions can be really simple to do in these redraft leagues.
And some people listening might not really, think we're full of shit. No, I'm in these streets. I'm in these fantasy streets, and I actually in that league that I described, I just sent an offer Marvin Harrison for Trey McBride.
Oh yeah.
My other receivers, I got Tet, I got Egbuka. I'm starting. I got Jordan Addison on the bench. I have Chase Brown, Bijan, Quinshaw Judkins. I'm pretty flush with talent, but my tight end right now has been doing okay. Dalton Kincaid. I want to tear up. I want to get that guy. I want Trey McBride. So I'm about that. I'm about to do that thing. So give us your next buy here, Evan.
We've been mentioning him in passing with that McBride team in one of your leagues we're just talking about. Tucker Kraft is my guy that I want to buy. He has had a little bit of a breakout this year, but he's only had one top 12 week this season, which was back in week 2, 3 weeks ago. Over the next 4 games, he has the Bengals, Cardinals, Steelers, and Panthers. The Bengals and Panthers are elite tight end matchups, while the other 2 are still pretty good. He also has great metrics, 6th in expected fantasy points, 2nd in yards per route run, 4th in first downs per route run. And I think that it's pretty likely Tucker Kraft is on a team that already has another tight end that they trust as well. A Dalton Kincaid, Kyle Pitts, Juwan Johnson even, or a Theo Johnson. There's so many tight ends that people can like, and a lot of these redraft teams have 2 of them, especially the Tucker Kraft team because they're coming off of a bye right now. So I think that you can go get Tucker Kraft for a bit of a discount. He's got elite, actual difference maker ceiling, even though he hasn't been that to start the season. He's really only had 1 good game.
Do you see his production coming down when Christian Watson comes back? How do you kind of see this whole thing happening? Or is it just a wide receiver issue? Tucker Kraft will be Tucker Kraft. The wide receivers will have to deal with that pie.
Yeah, I just don't really care about Christian Watson, honestly. I don't see him being a giant factor this year. They gave him a little bit of a contract extension, but it wasn't really significant money. And at the end of the day, Tucker Kraft is going to be on the field. Those receivers are going to shuffle in and out as they always do on the Packers, but Kraft is the guy that stays on the field, and really the passing offense revolves around him right now.
And as you mentioned earlier in the show, they run the ball a ton. There's a lot of rushing opportunities for Josh Jacobs. So those two players will probably keep where they're at. Everything else kind of comes into fruition. And when you kind of look at the NFL team itself, since they drafted Christian Watson, they've also invested pretty heavily in Jaden Reed and then again in Matthew Golden. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think
he's just another guy in that room.
Yeah. It seems to be the case. I'm with you. I think Todd Kraft's a good buy. And to be honest, if the person in my league turns down the Trey McBride offer, maybe I'll do a lesser thing or something else, try to get Tucker Kraft on the squad. My next buy candidate is a running back that you have to buy before it's too late, and the time is running out very quickly. It's Bill, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Over these next 4 weeks, Chicago, Dallas, Kansas City, Seattle, all fantastic matchups, super advantageous for running backs. And this dude, once he gets the lion's share, I talked about breakaway run rate versus opportunity share. Once that opportunity share goes up for Bill, man, he is going to be a fantasy monster. Number 1, yards created, true yards per carry. Number 2, yards per touch. 12th in juke rate. 2nd in explosive rating. 4th in breakaway runs. It's going to be an absolute smash mode, and there's nothing there in the backfield to push him aside. Eckler's hurt. Chris Rodriguez is not great. Jerry McNichols, congratulations for being in the league for 2 decades. But you ain't going to take it now in year 25 of your career. It's Bill. The Bill season is amongst us. We saw it last week, but there might be some hesitancy. There might be some people in redraft that are saying to themselves, this is a flash in the pan. I got this guy after round 10. I don't care. I don't think it's to stay. I'm going to, quote unquote, sell high. Again, when you're looking for wins, you can't worry so much about, what they're setting the price for. If you have the bodies, if you can make the payment, get the player, because there's going to be a lot of smashes coming up, a lot of fantasy points to be had from Bill over this next month. And some of these players here that I've seen using the trade finder at playerprofile.com, Keenan Allen traded for Bill. So in this case, if you don't have a Keenan Allen, it'd be someone that is maybe your flex play, but he's overproducing. Let's say he's a top 25 wide receiver, top 15 running back, but someone that might not have a great analytical profile, or maybe someone who thinks comes back down to earth after a hot month. So someone who's been overproducing, one of those flex plays that are overproducing, I'm taking that player and I'm going to go ahead and get Bill with it. Or if you want to put together a package situation, maybe someone like a Christian Kirk, like a fringe flex, someone maybe a top 50 wide receiver, plus a Michael Carter. That's something I saw in the trade finder was Kirk and Carter, but it doesn't have to be Carter. It could be any of these short-term bye week or short-term injury fill-ins or handcuff situations that are maybe elevated based on, a short-term touches, something of that nature. Package that up, get Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, because sooner rather than later he's going to rack up these, running back 1 weeks. And over a span of a month, he might get 3, he might get 4. And at that point, you can't get him. So get him now before it's too late and help him. Let him get those points on your team. Let him help you get the wins, not somebody else.
Absolutely. No doubt, man. He is clearly the best running back on this team. Whether you look at the stats, you look at the tape, whatever. He is clearly the most explosive. And we saw that usage tick up substantially last week. Snap share up to 48%. And the route share up to 44%, which is huge. I'm not expecting him to be dominant in the receiving game, but if he can be on the field and just catch a couple passes a game, that is just huge for his fantasy value. And I think he'll be able to do that because, McNichols, he's really not anything, and Chris Rodriguez can't catch passes. So I love this take. I have him as a solid running back 2 rest of season. When I think a lot of managers would probably view him as more of just an upside running back 3, you should be able to take advantage of that.
All right, Evan, what's your next buy?
My last one, specifically for these 1 and 4 teams that need some help right now, is J.K. Dobbins. Over the next 3 weeks, they face the Jets, Giants, and Cowboys. Just 3 phenomenal matchups. Expect a lot of points in all of those. He's also getting good usage, and it's a good environment in Denver. They're 7th in run plays per game, 4th in run blocking rating, and Dobbins has been RB20 in expected fantasy points to start the season. the efficiency has been through the roof. First in explosive rating, second in breakaway runs, sixth in true yards per carry. So he's blending really everything's coming together for Dobbins, especially in the short term. I do expect Harvey to see a slow rise in his role throughout the course of the season, but right now, for the next month or so, Dobbins is a smash.
And that actually might be your buying window, right? I mean, it's tough to get producing players in redraft because producing players typically lead to fantasy wins. Teams who have fantasy wins typically don't want to sell off players. But
Right.
in this specific case, the person who rosters JK probably didn't use super high draft capital and also realizes that there's a really good rookie waiting in the wings. And they know J.K. Dobbins was jobless until, a month before training camp? So it feels as if there is writing on the wall that could warrant a team to trade Dobbins now. And if you need wins now, getting J.K. might be the right move. What's about the range you'd be willing to go knowing that he might be a bit of a short-term, not long-term? So you know you need the wins now, but you also don't want to give up too much because it might fade if you do get the ship righted, headed towards the playoffs. So what about, are you comfortable for trading for J.K.?
Yeah, that's a good question. The way I see it is Dobbins is pretty likely to be like a running back 3 on a redraft team right now. So the manager that has him there's a good chance he feels comfortable moving on for him, probably for a wide receiver. And I wouldn't want to move off of someone like Matthew Golden, who has a ton of upside, but he's not helping you. You're 1-4. You need to win right now. Golden isn't helping you win right now, so I think that would be a guy I would look to trade away. Maybe Jamison Williams if the other manager is looking for a little wide receiver upside. That's a guy I would look to move. Really anybody in that wide receiver 3-ish range. There's 20 to 30 guys that are all about the same. And you should feel comfortable trading any of them for Dobbins if you need to win right now, and he's just slotting right into your running back 2 role.
Yeah, he's got some good matchups on the horizon. The Broncos just kind of they got to whether be running backs or wide receivers because you're trying to buy the running back for the Broncos. I'm looking to buy some of these pass catchers for the Broncos to help you in the short term. So, of course, we're shooting for the moon here. We're going for Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton's been nasty. Might be tough to get Courtland Sutton. So if he is not available, if you cannot buy Courtland Sutton, I'm okay going after Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims on the low. Taking shots in the dark. Pretty much free 99. Some of these guys might even be able to pick up in redraft. And the reason is the schedule. So over the next 5 weeks, they are at the New York Jets, home against the Giants, home against the Cowboys, at Houston, home against the Raiders. 4 of those 5 matches are smashes. Houston's been a bit difficult, but that's already a month down the road. Let's get these wins now. Let's beat up on the Jets, beat up on the Giants, beat up on Dallas, and let's get some of these pass catchers because Sutton, let's just talk about Sutton more than all these guys because Sutton's the true difference maker. He's got the 10th most receiving yards in the league. But also, you look at the analytical profile. I was surprised to see how high his juke rate was. He's getting a little bit older there. How old is he? 30. Dang, I thought he was a little younger. But yeah, 30 years old, but he can still move. He can still shake. He's still making a difference. 16.1 fantasy points per game. So it might be tougher to get, but I think it's willing to pay up. And again, we're trying to find these opportunities. Courtland Sutton, again, probably wasn't drafted to be someone's alpha, probably a wide receiver 2 on most leagues, maybe wide receiver 3 in like a 0 RB or a hero RB build. So there is a little bit of a buy window. But again, I want any of these pass catchers because of the opportunity, because of the schedule coming forth. Now, like I said, Mims, Franklin, you guys deal with that. You guys make that trade. You pick them up on your own. But I want to give a little advice on maybe what it would cost to get Courtland Sutton. And using the trade finder on playerprofiler.com, Travis Etienne was recently traded for Sutton. And if I'm looking to win now and I have some running back depth, I'm doing it. I'm absolutely making that trade. So if you don't have Etienne, that's fine. We're looking at someone that's overproducing the ADP, a starter that's outproducing their where they were being drafted. Projected at this point. So it looks like a good starter. The points per game is up. There's a lot there for the opposing manager to sink their teeth into, to enjoy. And then you go ahead and take Courtland Sutton off your deal, off your table. But if you're also looking to buy in the true sense, meaning you're going to take 2 assets and trade for one type of thing, I saw DeAndre Swift plus Mark Andrews. That's something I'm looking to do again because DeAndre Swift's been good, but he's not a difference maker. Mark Andrews has been miserable. Now I don't think you're trading Andrews in most leagues, so that's probably off the table. But basically, when I see this, what I see is a starter, but a replaceable one. Someone who's not necessarily going to be a world beater, someone that's going to cripple your chances of winning if you trade. Plus, somebody who's a positional need, maybe some depth on your end, but it's a positional need for the opposing manager. So maybe it's not Mark Andrews, but maybe it's another tight end that's kind of Dalton Kincaid. Maybe you have Trey McBride and Dalton Kincaid. You could take your Kincaid, who's been overproducing. You could take your running back 3, move it for a Cortland Sutton. There are opportunities to buy a Cortland Sutton, even though he's just been an absolute smash so far in fantasy football. So I'm looking to buy. I guess collectively, Evan, we're looking to buy anyone on the Broncos.
Yes, sir. Yep. And I think you mentioned something very important there. Sutton is most likely like a wide receiver 3 or 2 on most people's teams, or they at least have 2 receivers that are just as good as Cortland Sutton, really. Maybe even 3 receivers that are just as good, at least in the same range as Cortland Sutton. Those are the kind of teams that you should be targeting to make deals with, are teams that are just leaving fantasy points on their bench. So you don't necessarily need to take the guy that's on their bench, but take one of those guys at that position, someone that you like and you like the outlook of, and then make a cross-positional trade. I think that's generally a great way to approach trades in redraft leagues.
Yeah. All right. So that's it. That's pretty much the segments parts of the show. So if that's what you came here for, thank you for tuning in, tapping in. Make sure you're liking the video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you leave a comment. Make sure you're doing all the right things right for us. We'll see you later. But again, we want to say thank you for everyone's watching live. We want to get to everyone's questions in the chat. So now, for the rest of the show, of course, if you're listening on audio, just keep listening, because maybe some of this advice trickles into what you're having to do in fantasy football, a question that you may have in fantasy football. So we're going to go ahead and answer some of the chat's questions right now. So let's start. Tet McMillan for Rashee Rice and PPR. Which would you rather have rest of season, Evan?
I have them back-to-back in the rest of season rankings right now, but Rashee Rice, 1 spot ahead. I think he's got a lot more upside for sure. McMillan's been awesome. I have nothing bad to say about him. Other than that, it's Bryce Young on the Panthers versus Patrick Mahomes on the Chiefs. So there's certainly more upside with Rice, and also I think the PPR makes a pretty big difference here. Rice is a PPR scam kind of guy, unlike Tetero and McMillan.
So I do want to ask you a follow-up question here. Is it the same for Dynasty and Redraft? Is it different for either? Because I think there's a bit of a distinction.
Yeah, I would prefer McMillan in Dynasty. I was thinking Redraft.
Yeah, I agree. In Redraft, I think I'm definitely taking Rashee. I think in Dynasty, I'm going to look to stay with Mr. Tet McMillan. Would you trade Harvey and Mike Evans for Pearsall and Pollard in PPR?
Man, that's a pretty gross one. I think Pollard is in most leagues he's kind of unstartable. The Titans are last in the league in running back usage, and now they're splitting touches with Tajay Spears. So, and now we have 2 banged up receivers in here as well. I will take RJ Harvey and Mike Evans. I just see more upside on that side, particularly with the Harvey versus Pollard dynamic.
I completely agree. If you could somehow get in a time machine and also change history so that Ricky Pearsall wasn't hurt, then I would probably take the Pearsall side. But with him being banged up, it feels like he'll get healthy kind of along the same lines when we'll see Juwan Jennings come back. Maybe we see George Kittle shortly thereafter. Plus, there's a guy on that team named Christian McCaffrey that's getting all the dang targets. So I don't know if there's a big distinction between Pearsall and Evans. And then for Pollard and Harvey, I would rather go the upside, chase the long-term upside of Harvey in redraft. Now, in Dynasty, I would probably take – I think it's pretty much even. I think it's pick your poison here. Do you want the young receiver or the young running back? For me, I think that I would rather have the young running back regardless. So I think I'm going Harvey and Evans despite the format.
Yeah, I think Dynasty, I would be okay taking Pearsall, but redraft is definitely Harvey.
Should I trade Bill, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, and R.J. Harvey for Brees and Corum? It's a 12-man full PPR flex league. I may have to also throw in Dak or Fields.
Interesting. Oh, this is an interesting one because we have a running back that we really like in Bill. He's like a running back too. R.J. Harvey and Blake Corum are both very good handcuffs or upside options on your bench. But Brees Hall is, I think you just have to take that side because he's smashing so far this year, and I expect that to continue. The Jets offense is honestly one of the best offenses for fantasy right now. It is all strictly garbage time, but it's beautiful. I have Brees Hall outside of the top 12 running backs rest of season, but he is by far the best player in this trade for me.
Now let's just put it, if let's say he has the option, if Mark has the chance to put in Dak or Fields, which one are you putting in? Which one are you holding?
I like Fields more, specifically for redraft. But if you have Fields and Brees, does that confuse it at all for you? Would you maybe rather keep Dak? What do you think?
I think I would rather keep Dak, trade Fields. Fields is a fantasy god. I mean, he's awesome. So I think maybe you could even get if they're in the negotiations, the nuance of negotiations, you have to add a quarterback. Okay, well then you have to add X. So I think with Fields, you could get them to add more. And I think Dak's the safer play. I know he doesn't have the ceiling week to week as a Fields because the rushing that Fields presents, the garbage time that the Jets seemingly see themselves in every single week. But I think Dak's floor is super high. The ceiling's high enough. CeeDee Lamb will be back. I think I'm going to keep Dak, trade Fields, but try to get a third piece from them. Try to get something back, whether it even be depth, a stash, something to make it even, balance the scales a little bit. So I think I'm selling Fields to try to get a little extra back.
Yeah, I like it.
PPR League, would you trade Brian Thomas Jr. and Jalen Warren for Rome Odunze? He has Gibbs, Dobbins, and Henderson as his other running backs.
Damn. That's a pretty nice running back room right there. Personally, this is tough for me because I'm incredibly high on Jalen Warren. But, I mean, man, Rome Odunze is just absolutely smashing. So I would co-sign this deal, specifically with that running back room that you have.
The running back room kind of solidifies it for me. I'm definitely making this trade. I think I'm making this trade, whether it be dynasty or redraft. I think I'm making this trade. Rome is just, he's been so good. This offense, still feels like there's another layer for them, another level for them to get to coming out of their bye. And with this running back room, you could support the loss of Jalen Warren. If this knee injury presents itself to be a little bit more long-term, if Caleb Johnson starts to eat away the touches, it feels like there's a chance for the bottom to kind of fall out for Jalen Warren, where those other running backs, you got them locked in, you got future, you got now. In Rome Odunze, BTJ, I had Rome ahead of BTJ coming out of college. BTJ, supplanted him after a ridiculous rookie season, but after the seemingly flip-flop of stats 5 weeks in, I'm right back to where I was when they were coming out of college. I got Rome ahead of BTJ. I think Rome is sick. He's an awesome player. So is BTJ, but I think Odunze is nasty, and I'm willing to do the 2-for-1 here, knowing that you got those other running backs in the room.
Yeah, thinking about it a little bit more, I'm definitely in on this trade. Odunze I have up at wide receiver 6 right now, while BTJ down at wide receiver 24. So that's a pretty big difference. Rest of season, by the way.
Looking like a straight outdoorsman who golfs. Listen, brother, look at my X profile. It says I dress like Adam Sandler. It is what it is. I just always seem to dress him like Adam Sandler. You only see the golf polo, but you can bet your bottom dollar I am wearing basketball shorts. So it's always golf polos. It's shorts if I'm out in public, but if I'm just being casual, it's basketball shorts. I'm Adam Sandler all day long, baby, all day long. All right, what we got here? We got Tet McMillan for BTJ in PPR. Who would you rather have?
I think this is pretty easily Tet, redraft or dynasty, right?
Yeah, I think so because I just recorded the latest Futurecast that'll be out here on the Player Profiler channel in a few days, where I redrafted the rookie class from 2025, and I was kind of talking about Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter has to factor in more. I mean, we saw how good, how talented he is. His yak is already amongst some of the highest in the league where he's not getting the touches. I see a world where BTJ is really good, but isn't a wide receiver one dominator like he was as a rookie, where Tet, we're gonna see the catches catch up to the targets, and I think he's gonna be ready to smash. So I think I'm taking Tet either which way. And for better or for worse, Liam Cohen just isn't getting his playmakers the ball a ton, and they're winning. So maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. So I'm going to go with Tet. I'm going to chase the targets. I'm going to chase the path to him being a wide receiver alpha on his team for the next 5 years. So give me Tet.
I love it. Yeah, I think BTJ is a little bit limited as a receiver. We saw some of the insane stuff that he can do last year, but he's not so great at the easy stuff. So he'll need some time if he actually does ascend to that next level. We'll see.
And Mac Jones ain't coming through that door, baby. It's going to be T-Lo. It ain't Mac Jones. All right, here we got another one. Trade Adams. I'm assuming Devontae. Is there another Adams? It's got to be, right? Devontae Adams and Saquon Barkley for Gibbs and Pickens. He's 4-1.
This is a big boy deal right here. You don't see those too often. Oof, getting me going. I'm going to take the Gibbs and Pickens side. I see Pickens and Adams pretty similar in terms of rest of season outlook. They're both wide receiver twos on great fantasy offenses for the receivers. So those are kind of a wash for me. And then Gibbs over Saquon rest of season, mostly because of the offensive line and environment.
Yeah, I think Pickens and Adams are pretty even when CeeDee Lamb comes back. I mean, Brian Schottenheimer, we didn't know we needed him, but my God, we needed him. Did you see his quote today that came out that he doesn't make plays for spots on the field? He makes plays for players. He wants his superstars to get the ball. Oh, talk about, Mikota Zoni's coming after my heart. I love hearing that, and I think that Pickens will eat even when CeeDee Lamb comes back. And for me, I'm going to break the tie this way. We've seen what Gibbs looks like with a running mate in the backfield, and it's still great. And awesome. Barkley, he smashes by himself, but the Eagles they're looking to win the Super Bowl. They're not looking to win our fantasy matchups week 10, 11, 12, even in the fantasy playoffs. So if they start dialing back Barkley's touches, maybe they give Tank Bigsby, A.J. Dillon, Will Shipley, they give these guys more touches just to keep them fresh. We don't know exactly what that looks like. I'm not going to say it's bad. I'm not going to say it's going to tank his value, but we don't know what it looks like. But we know exactly what it looks like when Gibbs shares the rock, and it's still damn good, baby. So give me Gibbs, give me Pickens.
Yeah. If you told me that David Montgomery is going to be healthy the rest of the season, I would still take Gibbs over Saquon. And then 100%. What if Monty gets hurt?
We saw what happens. He's a walking 30 bucket in PPR.
Yeah, he's ahead of Christian McCaffrey. Yeah.
He's unbelievable. So in the chat, we got drop Trevor Lawrence and Dart to stream Mac Jones and stash Brock Purdy. I love this question from Eric.
Ooh, this is a fun one.
I'm assuming this is redraft because you're not dropping two quarterbacks for these guys in Dynasty. So I'm assuming you can redraft, but I love this question. This is a great strategy question from Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. Who does San Fran? They have the Tampa this week. That's a good matchup. Yeah, I would be down to do this, I suppose. Purdy is a tough one for me to evaluate rest of season because we saw him come back briefly from that toe injury, and he was just not mobile whatsoever. And now Mac Jones is going through it, man. He took an absolute beating last week. I'm worried about him staying healthy too. I think we need to be. I get the impulse here, and I wouldn't be mad at you if you did it. But at the same time, Lawrence and Dart, I think I would lean that side.
Yeah, if it's a side thing, I would lean Lawrence and Dart. But just from an advice standpoint, Evan, I think I'm going to kind of split the difference. I think I'm willing to drop Dart to either play Mac Jones in the short term or stash Brock Purdy, depending on what your win-loss record is, and keep the other, because I don't know what it is about the San Francisco training staff, but they need to improve it or develop it or something, because everyone gets hurt every single year for the Niners. And like you said, Brock is going through multiple injuries. Mac Jones damn near died at the end of that Thursday Night Football game last week. Oh my God, so I don't want both Niners quarterbacks. I would take one, Mac Jones, if I need wins short term. Brock Purdy, if I can stash him in later, because I think at the end of the year we'll look back and we'll see Brock Purdy probably being better than all these guys on a per game basis. So whichever way you're looking to win now or stash, I think I'd take one of the Niners guys, but I'm going to keep one of Law and Dart. And personally, I think I'm keeping T-Law over Dart with Neighbors on the shelf the rest of the year.
Yeah, I would keep T-Law over Dart for sure. I'm just not expecting much in terms of fantasy production from Dart with no weapons around him. And then I will throw in one little thing at the end. Do we need to be rostering 2 quarterbacks? I don't know.
Good question.
I don't know.
Yeah, in a lot of redraft formats, you shouldn't. You can pick guys up in waivers when it comes to bye weeks and things of that nature. So
if Mac Jones and Brock Purdy are on the waiver wire, that should probably be an indication that you don't need to be holding 2 quarterbacks, right?
That is why you are the whiz and the smartest guy in the room, Mr. Evan Ringler, because that's definitely true. You know what? Let the waiver wire stash your backup quarterback. That's the real answer right there. Should I trade Jacobs and Wilson for CMC, or is that too risky? This would be a big boy deal.
Oh my Lord. I will take the running back one and the wide receiver one over the super elite running back one that, we're just praying every week that it continues. And so far it's been awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to have CMC on my teams, but Jacobs and Wilson are both elite. So I'll take the 2 elite guys.
Temple Run, a.k.a. Christian McCaffrey, love it. He's an absolute destroyer, but there's so much risk taking that on. And if you could if you could negotiate this down, where it's Jacobs and a far lesser receiver, maybe your wide receiver 3, 4 even, and still try to bridge the gap with the third piece, however you have to balance it. If this is Dynasty, a pick, I would go that route, but I just can't give up this. That's so much firepower per week. If you talk about fantasy points per week, you're giving up way more fantasy points per week than you're getting with McCaffrey. Unless your replacement for Garrett Wilson was somehow, I don't know, you just had, Roma Dunze lying around. You had Emeka Egbuka lying around. At this point, maybe. So maybe with some more context, I would change my mind. But I'm with you. I'm going to keep the two players over the one.
Definitely.
Hey, fellas, I have Fields and Jaden in Superflex. Who would you rather keep as your third quarterback, Penix or Dart, 4 point per TD?
Are we going probably redraft here, or what are we thinking?
Most Superflex that I'm in are Dynasty.
Yeah, but I don't know.
We
can talk about it.
If you want to lay
both.
lay the context, yeah.
Let's see, Fields and Jaden, that is just sick.
That's sick, nasty.
That is sick. I guess I'll say Dart and Dynasty, Penix and redraft. Like we mentioned, I'm not expecting a ton from Dart, even though he's got the rushing. It's just, man, that environment is just horrible. So I don't really see how he gets there in fantasy this year, but I would definitely prefer him over Penix long term.
I don't have much to add. I completely agree. And the 4 point per TD has me leaning Dart, who will have a little bit more rushing ability over the course of his career, as opposed to the lefty statue that is Michael Penix Jr. Stash Isaiah Davis over Brashard Smith with the Brees trade chatter.
Ooh, this is a fun one. Man, can I roster both of them? It really hurts having to answer these backup stash questions. But I would lean Brashard Smith, because there is an out where you don't even need injuries for him to hit. And when it comes to trade rumors in the NFL, I'm always the pessimist. They rarely happen like we want them to, especially the ones with fantasy, like big fantasy implications. It's just rare for those to happen mid-season. So I would bet against that.
It's so funny. Our personalities on this matter are completely opposite, because I always get too hyped on trade chatter. And it's the trade chatter around Brees, but it's also the trade chatter around the Chiefs wanting Brees or Kamara that has me leaning
that would
Davis.
Be crazy.
So for whatever reason, they're still using Pacheco and Hunt a ton. It feels like Brashard Smith could bring a lot to this team, but Rashee Rice is coming back, so there's probably not a whole lot of pass catch opportunities for Brashard Smith. And if the Chiefs are serious about one of these running backs, which I saw a proposed trade where they'd only have to give up a third and a fifth for Brees, brother, they're going to do it, and it's going to be cheaper for Kamara, and they're going to do it. So for me, I think I'm going to stash Isaiah Davis. I think I am.
I think that's totally fair. Yeah.
So he has a follow-up. I guess he could also trade Garrett Wilson and ETN for CMC. If he could keep Jacobs at
Ooh.
ETN and Wilson for CMC, are you doing it?
Yeah. Give me CMC. Let's go win a chip.
That's a go. Yeah, baby. That's what I like to hear. This is a go win a ship type stuff. Is QJ and Warren for Adams fair in PPR?
QJ and Warren for Adams. I think that's about fair.
Yeah.
I am more of a QJ pessimist. So
Me too.
in redraft leagues, it might be tough to pull that off, but I think it's a pretty fair deal.
I think it's a fair deal, and the only way I'm not doing that is if like my backup tight end is like Chikakonkwo, Jonnu Smith. Like if it's nothing, then I might hesitate. But odds are, if you drafted Warren, you also probably have like Hunter Henry. Could you have picked up Darren Waller? Could you have Kyle Pitts, Dalton Kincaid? If you have any of those guys, any like a top 12 to 15 tight end, like on a weekly basis, I would be willing to make that trade because it wouldn't be that big a drop off.
I think you might have been talking Jalen Warren because you mentioned some other running backs in the chat. Like these are my other running backs.
Then that's even okay. Then that's still fair for me. I still think that's a fair.
I don't think it's that big of a difference, really.
Right. And Warren, when you drafted him, you got him at such a discount that he's probably you could even be a running back 4 if you went RB heavy at the top. Could be a running back 4 or something. I think that's a fair move, and that's something I'm looking to do. I think that's a good move, whether it's Tyler Ward or Jalen Ward. So either way, Ruckus, it's a fair trade. So we're looking at a drop Darius Slayton. So the answer is just yes.
Yes.
I don't have to finish this, but to finish his questions for Woody here, Burden, Emmanuel Wilson, Dylan Sampson, Isaiah Davis are all out there. He's thin at running back, so he thought maybe Wilson could be a good stash in case Jacobs gets hurt. So it sounds like he's got Jacobs, but not much else. Should he drop Slayton for Burden or any of these running backs?
Man, if you could, I just want to pick up Burden so much, dude, especially with the potential, post-bye rookie bump for Luther Burden coming this week. There have been reports that we should expect that to come. So if you're stacked at receiver, then sure, just throw another running back on your bench. I like Emmanuel Wilson the most out of these guys. He's on a very, very run-heavy offense, and his role has grown substantially recently, and I also think he's explosive. So if you are stacked at receiver, I'm fine going Wilson. But, man, I really want Burden.
I want Burden too. So, all else the same in a vacuum. Let's rank it. I think we probably have it same here. Is it for you? Because it is for me. Burden, Wilson, Davis, Sampson.
Absolutely.
Bang. Bingo, bango, bongo. Mr. Franks, how y'all doing? We're doing great. We are doing great. And he also has a question for us, Evan. Someone sent me Henry and Harvey for Dunze. He's got JSN, Puka, and Wilson. I didn't freeze there. My mind just melted. That is unbelievable. That is unbelievable.
Yeah. What the
unbelievable.
fuck?
He's got Pittman in his bench.
What?
It's a no-brainer yes, in my opinion. What do you think?
Okay, this is ridiculous. What? Because initially I was just looking at Derrick Henry and RJ Harvey for Odunze. I would keep Odunze, but holy shit. I've never seen a receiver room like this. In
I think
redraft,
I'm keeping it anyway.
This is ridiculous. Yeah, you can get more. You can get more.
He's so
dude.
good. You can get more. Whether this
Absolutely.
is redraft, whether this is dynasty, you can get more. Plus, if let's just say you're a 2 wide receiver, start 1 flex type of league, just convince your league mates to go to 2 flex. Because JSN, Puka, Wilson, and Odunze is unreal. And Pittman has been so good, you need running backs. You could probably get a decent running back for Pittman. Could you flip Pittman for a short-term Rashad White plus a Ramondre Stevenson or something? You could generate some running back touches with Michael Pittman. Odunze is so good. 9 times out of 10, I'm saying Odunze is my favorite receiver on someone's team, unless you have JSN, Puka, Garrett Wilson. Holy moly.
This is... Okay.
Unreal.
Yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. I think what you do is you tell the whole league, you go in the group chat and you say JSN, Puka, Garrett Wilson, Odunze. All of them are available. Send me offers. I need running back. And you're going to get a whole bunch of offers in your inbox. We want stud running backs. I think we want to trade away one of those stud receivers to get a stud running back, probably. I don't see Derrick Henry as that rest of the season because of the situation. They're not running the ball a lot. when they are low yards before contact, and he's not a receiver. So I would stay away from Henry. We want to shoot for the elite guys in these kind of deals.
And given where they are right now, I mean, I can't imagine that the trade conversation would be all that far off putting Pittman on the table for Henry.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think the moral of the story here is you could get a lot more for these receivers, and I'm trying to hold on to Odunze, Wilson, Puka, and JSN as much as possible, trying to sell Pittman. But like you said, put them all on the block, let the offers roll in, and let somebody just overpay through the nose, and then maybe make the move.
Yeah, the way I look at it is, I would in an ideal world love to get rid of Pittman and get a decent running back too, but that's just not as realistic. When teams look at your roster, they want to buy JSN, Puka, Garrett Wilson, Odunze, and you can get way more for those dudes as well. So I think that is the realistic route to look at. And then you just have Pittman as a backup. That's great.
So a little bit of context, he's 5-0. Yeah, duh.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, duh. And they veto everything because my team's scary. Leave the league.
Okay,
Leave the league.
that's super
Leave the league.
lame.
Don't play with these losers.
That's so lame.
Vetoes are for losers. Just because your team's better than theirs, they want to be crybaby, baby back biatches. Screw this league, Mr. Fragments. Go undefeated, burn this thing to the ground, and say, give me my money and bounce, baby, because that's lame. That's as lame as it gets,
so
vetoing stuff
stupid.
because your team's
Oh
good.
man, that would
So
make me
bad.
so mad.
So we got one more, 3 questions from one guy. He's been waiting so long, so we got to make sure we get all of them. Our guy Mando here. Bench one, QJ, Pickens, Worthy, or Dunze this week?
Ooh, wow, this is a sexy
good.
one as well.
It's a pretty good one.
Yeah. So for me, Pickens and Rome, no question, are in my lineup. It comes down to Worthy versus QJ, and I love the game environment for Worthy, especially this week against the Lions. So I'll sit QJ.
Man, all of these guys are top 24 options in my opinion, but
Yeah.
QJ's the lowest at 23. I got Worthy at wide receiver 6 this week, Adunze at wide receiver 7 this week, and Pickens at wide receiver 12. So I'm going to sit QJ, but good. This is a good roster to have.
Another
It's not
sick
quite-
team. Yeah.
It's not quite JSN, Puka, Garrett Wilson, and Adunze, but it's still
It's
pretty
not too
damn
bad though.
good. No Lamar, so start Bryce Young or Trevor Lawrence this week.
Man. I have it ranked very, very slightly Lawrence ahead of Bryce Young, like literally 0.1 points higher. What do you think on this? Because it's tough. Bryce Young has had a lot of really, really favorable matchups already this year and hasn't really performed like we want him to in fantasy, while Lawrence has been running the ball a lot more than Bryce Young has. So I think there's a better floor there.
I'm going Bryce Young. So I got Bryce this week as running back, quarterback 13. I'm going with the matchup. Dallas has been such a great matchup for
Yes.
opposing quarterbacks. Even last week, where it seemed so bleak for the Jets and for Fields, he still finished, damn near 30 points in some formats. So he still smashed. And so I'm going to chase the good matchup because Lawrence against Seattle, Lawrence has been pretty bad. He had 2 rushing touchdowns that supported a good week on Monday Night Football last week, one in which he was going to throw it to Travis Hunter. He fell and then scampered into the end zone. So either way, I guess it's 3 touchdowns, however you carve it. It was encouraging for Lawrence, but I think I'm going to start Bryce Young. I'm going to chase the matchup, and if it backfires, I think I'm okay living with that because at least the matchup was good.
Yeah, you've convinced me. He's had some good matchups this year where he's disappointed, but this isn't a good matchup. This is the elite matchup. This is as good as it gets. So, yeah, let's go Bryce Young.
So last one from Mando. He's going to start one running back. Is it Ramondre or is it Henderson? Or you just picked up Hassan Haskins?
Man, that's tough. I would start Ramondre. I really want to start Trevion, but I just think that Ramondre is going to get more work than Henderson is. And we honestly haven't really seen crazy breakaway plays from Henderson yet either.
I have Ramondre at running back 22 this week. I have Henderson at running back 29, so I am starting Henderson. But I will say this, Mando. This is a head versus heart type of thing.
Absolutely.
The head says Ramondre, but I will lay this out there because some fantasy players, myself very, very much included, I do play fantasy this way. If I start Ramondre and Henderson goes for 25 on my bench,
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to be on I'm going to be on fantasy football, unaliving myself.
Yeah, that would ruin my week.
Where if I start Henderson and it's the opposite, like it was on Sunday Night Football, I think I can live with it. I'll be pissed, but I can live with it. But if you're going to go with your head, you're going to go with Mondre. But if you want to go with the cortisone, you want to go with the heart, I'm going Henderson. But I am going to go with Patriots running back over the Chargers situation because I have no idea how that's going to pan out. Because that situation looks, I don't know. I don't know how that looks. I don't know.
I like it.
No,
yeah. For
Evan,
your own well-being, just start Henderson just to make sure that he doesn't go off on your bench. I think that is perfectly valid reasoning.
This has been so much fun answering questions. Again, thank you guys so much for sticking around, for staying in the chat. Chat, you guys are the best. We do this for you, all the fantasy managers out there. This is what the game plan is all about. So we got 2 more. You want to stick around and knock these 2 out that are in the chat? Because I'm having too much fun.
Why not?
10-man, full PPR, Jaden Daniels, Barkley, A-Chain, Adunze, Pittman, Igbuka, Kraft. His bench is loaded. This team's nasty. Anyone you think you should trade for? He's 3-2, which is crazy with this team. I'm not. I'm staying pat. I'm going to stay put here and just keep trying to churn things over on waiver wire. I'm not making any big moves because I think once you get this team back, even in a 10-man, so shallow rosters, Jaden, Barkley, A-Chain, Adunze, Ibuka, Kraft, they're going to smash on a weekly basis. With Kittle, I think I'm pretty much staying pat. If you want to look for some peripheral stuff on the bottom, some buy low candidates, maybe some of the guys we talked about earlier in the show. Fernie, if you weren't here, make sure you go back, watch the whole video because we talked about some win now buy candidates. Maybe that's what you go with.
Yeah. I got 2 notes here on that. Drop Mixon, first of all. Unless it's like a deep dynasty league, then I guess you could keep him. But you should probably be dropped. And then you do have Kraft, Goddard, and Kittle. I would consider shopping those guys. Maybe get another depth running back or something.
Good call. Last one, Devontae Adams, Michael Pittman, or Breece Hall for his flex spot. It is a PPR format.
Man, give me Devontae Adams. Wide receiver 8 for me this week. Great matchup against Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Devontae Adams as well. Give it wide receiver 15, but a great matchup. I have Breece at running back 12, but the Denver matchup's a little bit worse off. Yeah. I could see a world where, maybe Hall outscores Adams by like a point, but I think if someone goes berserk,
could totally
I think it's going to be Adams, so I think I'm going to go with Adams.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, we got a couple more. Let's just keep the train rolling. Let's do it. Trade Chase Brown for Tony Pollard?
Chase
David
Brown.
Montgomery.
Sorry, what?
Brown so you have Brown. Okay. You can trade him for either Pollard or Montgomery. You're going to do it.
Montgomery. Yeah, he's the only one here with any semblance of upside.
Yeah, give me D-Mont. Trade Derrick Henry for Lamar and Swift. He's got 2 other QBs. They're Josh Allen, Kyler, and he also has Daniel Jones. So I'm assuming it's super flex with all these quarterbacks. So would you trade Derrick Henry for the quarterback?
Okay, this Swift? Makes no sense. This makes no sense at all. This has to be a 2 quarterback league, I suppose. But if it is, how the hell is he trading Derrick Henry for Lamar?
Yeah, you just got to cash in and do it.
It doesn't.
Yeah, do it. Do it now before they realize what's happening. And then just you have Lamar, you have Josh Allen, aka God mode in Superflex. Trade one of the other guys and then just recuperate some value there.
Yeah, what the fuck?
All right. That's it. That's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on this beautiful Wednesday night. If you're listening, make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast, rate, review, do all that good stuff. Of course, if you're here on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the Player Profiler channel, and make sure you leave a comment. Who are some of your buy candidates over this next month or so? Evan, let the people know where they can find you.
At Evan Ringler FF on X. Besides that, all my works at playerprofiler.com and here on the Player Profiler YouTube channel. And then also check out Fast Draft. If you haven't played Fast Draft yet, get in this week. Use code GAMEPLAN for a deposit match. And we just launched a free beginners only tournament. All you have to do is pick your 6 favorite players for this week, and you have a chance to win $100. There is no entry fee for that one.
Hell yeah, baby. Fast Draft is a lot of fun. So make sure you're playing Fast Draft. Make sure you're rocking with Player Profile for the rest of the year. And, of course, if you want to find me, I'm on X at Matty Kiwoom. He's Evan and Ringler. I'm Matty Kiwoom. And we will see you next week. So keep game planning, my friends. Peace.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.